I've gathered fairly rugged sticks, nothing too punky and rotten and nothing too wispy and bendy. We're going to start placing these ribs along the ridgepole using this outline. I've put some logs down here so that you can see the rough outline that we've already established with the sticks in the ground. And we're going to put the base of our ribs on that outline and lean the tops of them so that they're just poking up above this ridgepole. We don't want the ribs to create an X over the top of the ridgepole, because if you have a prolonged rain, a good soaker of 2-4 days long, what's going to happen is your debris is going to get saturated, and instead of the moisture running off the outside along the ribs, it's going to collect like a funnel inside the ribs, wrap around your ridgepole, and drip right into the center of your chest or between your eyes. So to avoid that, avoid what we call Xing. It's okay if one leans over and one doesn't. We just don't want a lot of X's going straight down the spine of our shelter. Now, sticks like this with the fork in it, they're still good to use. What I like to do is break them off. They're about the right length here. And put them where they'll still support your ridgepole without poking you in your own ribs in the middle of the night. And that's one other thing. Every branch that I tried to pick, I'd make sure there was no little sticks hanging off the sides of them so they would poke you as you rolled and tossed in the middle of the night. When you get in and out of your debris hut, these little twiglets, if you will, can really do you some damage, causing lots of scrapes and abrasions. The last thing I want to talk to you about as I'm laying these down is, notice how I'm not laying them side by side airtight. Think of a shower drain. All the hair that accumulates in that shower drain doesn't all fall through the holes, nor will the debris you put on this debris hut if you have your ribs spaced about 1.5 to 3 inches apart. It's not a critical thing to have them laying side by side real tight. In fact, that's not the preferred method at all. Think of the extra amount of material you're going to have to gather and the amount of time you're going to have to use to gather it. Remember, we're all about efficiency here. Normally, I'd put ribs on both sides, but for this video, we're going to make a cross-section debris hut so you can see just how the debris is placed on top of these ribs and what the inside is going to look like as far as how much debris goes inside to keep your body off the ground such that you're warm enough in really cold temperatures. Hey, I got my rake. Remember my rake? We're going to be scraping up debris right now, but before we start, there's some things I want to share with you. Head game number 1 to keep yourself alive. You want to gather debris from as far away from your shelter as possible and work toward your shelter. The reason? We need a lot of debris. And the more you gather, the more tired and discouraged one tends to become. So by the end of that trail of gathering debris, when you're pretty near tuckered out, the debris you still have to gather is right close by and you don't have to go scampering far off to get it. What I like to do is start from the downhill side and work my way in a spiral all the way around, slowly raking and coming in, hauling debris as I go, until we have enough debris. Now, how much is enough? Well, a rough guideline is to add the debris, and this is another head game, at the feet first until it's chin high. Now, why is this a head game for your survival? It's easy. Most of the debris you gather, well over 60%, is going to be at the foot area. Chin high, keeping it chin high all the way to the head. You can see the slope of this ridgepole makes it so that you have less debris here, again, when you're tired to gather, than in the beginning when you started putting it out here. These little tricks add up to a lot of energy saved, and they help to see you through a completed shelter. So, the debris's been added to a certain point. Remember, we want to go chin high. Well, if I were standing, this would come to right about here on me. We're not quite there yet. But because we're building a cross section of a debris hut for this video, we can't go any higher without having this other wall. We're going to take this time to explain how to stuff the inside and how much debris you need. I'm going to crawl inside right now. Good, everything seems to be working out. And I want you to picture my body elevated 6 inches off the forest floor. In order to do that, we need to stuff right up to this ridgepole with debris, get in and compress it, and then stuff it a second, maybe even a third time. Now, this will bring us closer to the ceiling, which is why we had 1.5 inches to 2 inches of clearance at our feet. We're going to stuff that with debris right now. So, the inside has been stuffed multiple times. Get inside, wiggle around, let it compress. Do that 2-3 times. We're on our 3rd time around. You want to pick out as many of the little twigs as you can. Remember, these things are going to start poking at you in the middle of the night. Go for the driest, fluffiest stuff. Try to avoid this stuff right here. Go inside. Just as a point of reference, as I'm getting in here, you can see this space. You don't want anything larger than this. This is kind of on the border of too roomy. Think about that the next time you see depictions of debris huts in other places. Voluminous garages made of leaves aren't going to keep you warm. Mummy bag, sleeping bag size is what you're going for. There we go. We're going to minimize this space by putting sticks into the debris on both sides once this wall is done. And inside that triangle of space, you guessed it, we're going to cram more debris so that the dead air space inside this shelter is from my thumb to my chest. That'll keep me warm and toasty to well below 0. We're going to add the ribs to this final wall. Again, real time, you'd be doing this before any debris touches this thing. And then we're going to complete this wall. Now, just to recap, this debris should be up to your chin. Although as it stands now, with over 2 feet of debris for most of this shelter, it can shed a 5-gallon bucket of water. In fact, in our courses, that's how we test the student debris huts. Someone's inside. We finished our wall. Our debris has elevated our body 6 to 8 inches off the forest floor, and we're lowering our ceiling to minimize dead air space by putting rafters, if you will, across that triangle of emptiness. Now, the height of the rafters is probably going to vary by individual. Mine end about knee high or kneecap high, so that here I am at 6 foot tall, 200 pounds, and my door opening is just below my kneecap in height. That's how tight you want your debris hut door to be. So we're going to put one of these last rafters in. Again, right through the debris hut wall. These go back all the way to about waist high. And then we're going to cram those with debris. Now there's debris all the way back to my waist inside this shelter. It should take quite an effort to get in as well as out of your debris hut. Now here's a discovery of something that must have been made by one of those cable television survival instructors. Notice how huge and voluminous the door opening is. This is not a survival shelter. This is an Aboriginal carport. Now, unless you have a British accent, like to suck the moisture out of elephant dung, or play your harmonica on the frozen lake inside your aluminum aircraft and then wonder why you're cold the next morning, you would write this shelter off as useless immediately. Remember the concepts. You want your body off of the ground. You want the escaping heat from your body to stay around you, not escape out a voluminous door opening. And you want your debris to be large enough to retain that body heat and shed the wind and the rain.